I've been speaking about the future for 20 years. And sometimes I say jokingly, the future is already here. We just haven't noticed. Because now it's very hard to talk about the future because the world seems very futuristic. 10 years ago, we talked about things that were hypothetical, music in the cloud or translation, and boom, here we are. So I'll talk to you about what that all means, how it will come together, why it could be heaven or it could be hell. When we look at AI and technology, of course, that's really always been true for technology. For example, fossil fuels, right? They were a technology and we got used to it in the industrial society, and now we're paying the result. So it could be heaven or it could be hell. And the key question really is, in the good future, what is good? And I think I've done a lot of research about this. We just keep it to the basics. Good is not dying, having rights, having a family, having food, having self-realization. Simple things. Good is not about how many houses I have or cars or simple definition. And how do we build that? How do we use AI to build a good future that's both economically good, socially good for humans? Because one thing that's happening is we are in this middle of this shift from the sort of 1P society, 1P being profit and growth. That was really before COVID. And all of a sudden we're shifting, millennials are coming in, Gen Y, Gen Z, and they're saying, we don't just want 1P, we want 4Ps. People, planet, purpose, and prosperity. And if you haven't noticed, the millennials are taken over. There's a $24 trillion shift from the people of my generation to their children. I have 2 millennials, so I know what I'm talking about. A money shift, but also a value shift. Because let's be frank, my generation, we contributed 50% of all global emissions in the last 25 years. That's our accomplishment. And now the kids are coming and saying, what is this? It's a broken system. You keep doing the same thing. The top 10% of people in the world who have money, most of us, not super rich, but doing well, at the top 10% produce 90% of emissions flying. That's me, clearly, 100 times a year. So I do offsetting and all these things, but we do have to ask the question, what is good? How do we reach the good future? And what about this idea of artificial intelligence being our co-pilot, our partner? There's a company called Friend.ai. I think they spent $1 million to buy the URL. And that's their promise, to create a virtual friend. That is a strange story because now we're at the point where we can say, clearly, it's not about what we can be, but it's about what we want to be. Upload our brain to the internet, we can do that today. It's a bit complicated. Just ask Elon Musk. We can go into cryonics, freeze our body for 30 years and come back. That is already done. 100,000 people have already done that. So very soon with AI, we can say we could probably create a machine that's like a human with a body. That's, of course, what Elon wants to build in OpenAI. The question is not what we can be, but what we want to be. And that is the question for business as well. The question is, what do we want as an outcome? Which way we are going? Do we want to create presence to our customers? Or do we want to create a bomb, a mousetrap? So many people I work with, the only thing they want to do with AI is to build a better mousetrap. That is a very bad idea. Nobody likes mousetraps. Nobody likes, in the end, the flywheel business model of Amazon. It's working, but is it good? Saudi Aramco is working, making lots of money. But is it good? Meta is working, but it's definitely not good. This is the primary reason that we have social unrest, is social media. I mean, that is a proven fact. Not just the Brexit, but everything that came afterwards as well. So when we look at AI, this is the key question, not if and how much it costs, because all of those things we can control. The question is why. And then the question is who? Do you trust OpenAI? I'm not going to ask you to lift your hand now, but do we trust IBM? Do we trust Microsoft? I would say in some cases, I would say, yeah, right. Apple, maybe IBM. OpenAI, no. Elon, how can you trust a sociopath? That's very difficult. Just kidding. But, so those are different questions. And as we go in the future, there's 2 big waves coming towards us. Both of them are equally positive and negative. One is climate change, and the other one is AI. And I will compare the two because I think it will give us some mileage. Climate change, clearly, we're heading towards climate emergency. If you see an action by people like the Extinction Rebellion in the UK, then the only answer is that you ain't seen nothing yet. We're at the very beginning of climate emergency requiring climate legislation, like COVID. We didn't want to do all these things in the COVID years, but hey, it was emergency. It's going to be the same for climate. We have to be certain that we can do this. And of course, the good news about climate is we can totally do this. We have almost all of the tech today to solve this problem. But what are we doing? We're spending $6.5 trillion a year on subsidizing oil and gas. That is what we're doing with all the great tools that we have. So it's not the tech or the science. It's our will, right? Our decisions. That is the problem. With climate change, I have no doubt we can change this. It's painful for the next 10, 15 years. It will cost a lot of money, $9 trillion per year to be exact, ballpark. But maybe in 2040, we're at the point where we can take it back out and bring the numbers down and clean up, especially when we have nuclear fusion, unlimited energy. So this is solvable. It's hard, but solvable. And also, it generates a new business. So green futures, as I call it, the World Economic Forum says 100 million new jobs. All of the investments are shifting in this direction. So it's really great. With artificial intelligence, we have the same issue, and that it will do great things. Primarily what IBM calls cognification, making stupid things smart. And God knows there's many stupid things in companies, right? Many things are that we could fix with just being smart. They don't even have to think or have reasoning. Why, right? As long as they're not stupid anymore, that's a big gain. The next Siri isn't going to be stupid anymore, but it won't be human. It'll appear to be human, of course, that's the whole idea of it, to make themselves indispensable, but it will be a tool. And this is the number one thing until 2030, the convergence of humans and machines. Convergence, of course, in parentheses, right? Because we can't really converge, but now it appears that we could replace people with machines. Now, this is one of the biggest myths I've heard in a long time. We can replace a person that works like a robot, a commodity person. Sam Altman calls these people a median employee. I don't really know what that means, but I'll show you in a second. So people who do commodity work, they can be replaced. If you in the call center are answering very simple calls all day, you will be replaced as soon as the machine learns how to understand Hindi, English, German, Swiss German. Yes, 20 million people. But we're not talking about work that requires consciousness, human agency. And everything you do requires human agency. Human agency means you instantly know if it's right or wrong. You have a hunch, you have intuition. Machines, no. Machines with intuition and hunches, we wouldn't want that. That's called alignment problem. That is not a good idea. So when we go in this direction, clearly we see this happening. The United Nations 3 days ago at the Summit for the Future in New York said they want to treat AI with the same urgency as climate change. Let's hope it doesn't mean with the same latency as climate change. Antonio Guterres came up with a great speech. Antonio does really interesting speeches, but too few people are paying attention. There were 220 people on the live stream from the UN. But anyway, it was still a good thing. And now we go back to the past. Blade Runner 1982, my favorite movie. This movie is what got me to be a futurist, to think about the future.
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
Yeah, that could be straight from the story of OpenAI. More human than human. That's the story. Is that a good idea? I mean, it seems like if you can do that in technology, you'll run the planet. Quantum computing, AI, all of these things that are part of this story. Commerce is our goal. And here is OpenAI in the future. The OpenAI city, probably based somewhere in the Middle East. And Sam, the CEO, he says, the coming change will be about the most impressive of human capabilities in AI. The ability to think, create, understand, and reason. Now, why do I think this is megalomaniac? Of course, I want the AI to understand facts and logic, understand in their limited way, not like humans. When you speak to somebody or meet somebody, we don't even need to speak. If I meet you somewhere in the airport, it would take me 0.4 seconds to estimate if you're nice or not nice, potential partner, potential threat. This is what humans do all the time. This is something we do automatically. But to build a machine that can do that, I would like the machines to be competent, to get the job done. That's why we're here, right? We want them to get the job done, not to take over the world, to reason. Reasoning? How can you reason without understanding the real world? AI doesn't have a body. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't smell. It doesn't taste. It doesn't do any of those things. It has access to a lot of data, more than we could ever hope for. Now we're going to ask this machine to make a decision on what? Politics? Social welfare? Launching nuclear rockets? Because they're more efficient? I mean, that strikes me as a bad proposition. So Jon Stewart, the American comedian, has a great summary of the AI takeover.
The way of life that you are accustomed to is no match for the promise of more profits and new markets, which sounds brutal if you're a human. But at least those other disruptions took place over a century or decades. AI is going to be ready to take over by Thursday. And once that happens, what the is there left for the rest of us to do?
Time is not a terrible thing.
AI freeing us up to think about things at a higher level.
We'll be able to express ourselves in new creative ways.
It's not joblessness, it's self-actualizing me time.
Okay, so he's a comedian, right? I don't take it too serious, right? But basically Warren Buffett says, paraphrasing Einstein on nuclear, he says, AI can change everything in the world except how men, and he really talks about men, because this is specific to men, is how we think and behave. And how do we behave? We like power. Women behave differently. We like this because it provides power. Joshua Bengio, one of the Turing Award winners for Jeffrey Hinton and other ones, he says a lot about this topic, and he says, profit maximization can yield corporate behavior that is at odds with the public interest. He's talking about AI. What is public interest? And why would a corporation be responsible for public interest? Of course, these are big questions, right? We know that today, very few people want to work for companies who are not in the public interest. In fact, many UK universities have banned British Petroleum and others from doing any sort of recruiting on their campus. Talking about public interest. I mean, this is a big thing that's happening. So we're moving in society from profit and growth to people, planet, purpose, prosperity. The SDGs by the UN, I mean, it's 20-year-old stuff, right? Al Gore, the sustainable capitalism. Finally, we're getting somewhere. And AI will help us here. Because first, of course, we can create a society that solves many problems. But AI will not solve social, cultural, political problems. It will make them worse. Like social media. Bad news is amplified 6 to 8 times from good news. And that is because the algorithm says, oh, people are upset. Then we deliver more of this. Myanmar, the support of the regime in Myanmar by Facebook. The uglier the stuff, the more clicks. The more ads for Facebook, the higher earnings. Does that make sense to you? Oh yeah. Economically speaking, it generates money. So now we're moving into a different world where this is becoming the prime objective. And believe me, this has nothing to do with socialism, communism, any of the isms, right? The only question for the future is, how do we build a good future? What it looks like is of no interest anymore. Whether the past teaches us that some of this is from Marx or from people like that, from history, now we have to think about what we want. The hardest thing for us to make AI work is the underlying economic paradigm. And that we have to question as companies and with our clients and our network. For example, the idea of saying, I'm going to get rid of lots of people because now we have AI. It won't work. Look at IBM Watson, the past, 10 years ago. No. Self-driving cars? It is a tool. How can a tool replace the owner of the tool? Only if the owner is also a tool. It doesn't do anything else. Then, yes. Huge economic gains. We can see here $17 trillion added to GDP when we roll out AI in the next decade. And we're talking about if that money is actually spent, we're talking about mind-boggling, right? But then people are saying on the other chart, and we're going to deliver those charts later so you can take a look at them, right? Basically, lots of people are saying this is not so good because it will impact our privacy, our human rights, our relationship with others. That's a big concern. Opportunities for employment. And then on a social level, experts are saying even worse. It brings up more wealth inequalities, politics and elections, among all the good stuff, lots of bad stuff. So when you see these charts, it's quite clear. We have a humongous opportunity for economic gain. And then we have a huge challenge for social, cultural, political, human issues. I mean, let's be real. We already have more relationships with the screen than we have with people. Now, if we can actually use AI to pretend to be another person or to be whatever I want to be, and then I go in the metaverse and I use Apple Vision Pro, then I'm completely aphysical. I'm disembodied, basically. I don't need a body anymore. So Is that the place that we want to go? Let's do a reality check on AI. First, for your purposes, we discussed this morning, the number one thing is not AI, it's IA, intelligent assistance. So that is making things work that didn't used to work. Better data, better processes, better analytics, better decisions, faster, more efficient. Okay, this is not rocket science. If you saw the list this morning, most of it is pretty boring stuff, right? But it's, yeah, if we can do that, we can cut down pollution by 50%. If I can figure out what people are going to eat on the airplane, if you're an airline, then I can cut the food waste down by 60%. KLM is doing that in Holland. These are practical things. It's IA. It's not a thinking machine. I don't need a machine to think to tell me that. I need the machine just to run the numbers. After that, we get to more general intelligence, like an upgraded Google Maps on Gmail. The last one is the Holy Grail, artificial general intelligence. Okay, now, why are those always linked, I wonder? Because people have to have big stories, I guess, to raise $150 billion in funding. But the reality is that the first one is about innovation. The second one is about disruption. And the third one is existential. Why, right? Why would we want to build something that's generally intelligent? If you would have a conversation with Einstein, he allegedly had an IQ of 152. If he explained physics to you, you would not understand a single thing he's talking about. Now we're building machines that may have an IQ of 250 or 500 and then 500,000. How can we reasonably expect that machine to be respecting us in any way? Not to be evil, just by accident. So I think we should separate this. For business, it's really about the first two things. That's why we're here. That's how we can figure out to make it more efficient and faster, better, less routine work. Going back to OpenAI, if that's the future of AI, I'm worried. I mean, we have already Elon Musk, and now we have Sam Altman filling a similar role of fantasizing about the future of technology. AI is now the next general purpose platform. You can see that here, from cloud computing to the mobile and the internet. Now, basically, AI is the general purpose technology. And it's the next platform for technology. Basically, AI is now a platform, just like whatever else used to be the platform before. And we're shifting to the natural user interface, the NUI. So I don't have to type anymore, download apps, or I just speak or think. All these shifts are huge when you think about it. I can do computing by speaking. And we're shortly before all of these things. So that's very big stuff. And this is why I believe a lot of people are talking about the AI bubble bursting. I say, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm not going to sing it for you, but we're only at the beginning. I think the bubble of investment and hyping, of course, is bursting to some degree. But clearly, we're looking at three revolutions in society that are coming at the same time, and AI is central to all of them. The digital revolution, the sustainability revolution, that's 100x of digital, really. And lastly, the purpose revolution. That goes along with the millennials coming into business. So asking questions about how we can do better processes and digitize and how we can be more sustainable. The sustainability thing is moving center stage as soon as we figure out what to do about the wars that are running on right now. We can solve that, then energy will be set free. So these things are all coming together, and AI is quite simply put in all of these, because AI will make it possible for us to go green. We know that, and of course the last one, the purpose revolution, AI will help us to figure out why work is not the future of human purpose. Can you imagine a society that is not where every man, and also women, but less, work the whole time? So that basically our whole life is centered around work. And if we have AI, we can probably unlock this. We can say we can do the same work in 3 to 4 hours per day and get paid the same. Now, if that sounds like socialism to you, I don't know. But we'll have to figure out what to do about this. So in technology, AI is at the center of all of this. Information technology, biotechnology, energy and climate tech, and so on. I mean, mind-boggling, right? The shifts that are happening for us. And I call this CAVA, like the Spanish champagne, okay? This is really what it comes down to with AI. We have cognification, making things smart. We have augmentation, using tools for ourselves. We have virtualization, like VR glasses yesterday, launch of Meta glasses, quite interesting. And then we have automation. Why do we obsess so much on automation? I don't see the point. Very few things can be really automated and should be really automated, because if I do all of these things underneath, make things smart, augment human behavior, then I can be much better off. than to focus on how I can get rid of people to automate everything. Of course, you can all routine work. That's clearly happening everywhere. And this is really what it comes down to on the future of work. If your work is routine, it won't last. If you work like a robot will take your job. If you learn like a robot, like at university or school, right, you'll never have a job. You'll end up working for the robot. This is the shift we have to be thinking about. Routine work from humans to machines. I think this is a good thing, but it's a threat for people who do routine work. I mean, I do routine work. I look forward to outsourcing those 30, 40%. I use a very cool tool called Google Notebook LM. It was just released, where knowledge work becomes much faster and better. You got to check it out because that is what I want. I want the things to be cognified and get rid of my routine. I don't want the machine to make decisions for me or feel things on my behalf. Thomson Reuters says every professional will have their own AI assistant. I think that's true. Giving examples of what they call the AI assistant. It's a pretty cool product, but what it does, it just gives me another tool to use. It doesn't replace anything that is in my domain because I still am responsible for the deal of 100 million. I'm not going to use a tool to make a non-disclosure agreement. I'm going to have it dish up some stuff I can use. So if you're a lawyer, you're not losing your credibility or your work in this. And then we have, of course, the extreme techno-optimist led by Mark Andreessen, one of the most famous investors in Silicon Valley. And he says every white-collar role will have an AI co-pilot, then an AI agent. He is also a staunch defender of techno-optimism. And while I believe that the co-pilot thing is a good idea, probably not in all cases, he says this: no material problem, including those caused by technology, cannot be solved with more technology. Now, this is almost religious, the religion of progress. Yes, many issues can be solved with technology, but not every problem can be solved with more technology. That's like saying, I have a problem because the face recognition said I'm not suitable for the job. I'm going to use more face recognition to see if I can find another job. I don't understand how that should work in principle. And of course, the other person espousing these ideas is this guy.
Tesla car next year will probably be 90% capable of autopilot. For sure, highway.
We're probably only a month away from having autonomous driving, at least for highways, like a Model S and Model X, and drive autonomously with greater safety than a person. Right now, safer than a person. By the end of next year, autonomous robotaxis for Tesla next year, and releasing it to the Tesla customer base next year.
I mean, it's looking quite likely that it will be next year.
Yeah. Okay. So it is so likely we're going to replace people with machines, right? That's extremely likely. What is very likely, we're going to replace the routines with machines. And even that, driving is a routine, allegedly. Do you see any self-driving cars here? You see them in Phoenix, Arizona. But yeah, eventually we'll have them. But it's a lot harder than we think. Ultimately, we got to think about what we want. We got to think about if it's about the money, corporate profit, which is very much the American agenda. Not saying that in a bad way, but just analyzing. Europe is really about humanity. Humanism, we're all humanists, and I include the UK there. Right? And China is about data, surveillance, the state. I mean, this is a great simplification, right? But when we put all this together, we have to come to the conclusion to value intelligence over everything else is a huge problem. Intelligence matters, but what about consciousness? What about choice? What about being human? Intelligence isn't the only thing that matters in business. No, there's many other things. So let's talk about what humans and machines are up to. You can see on this chart that I found on Twitter, one of the few good users remaining on Twitter. You see how AI is very good with data, with information, and with knowledge. But the lower part, insight, wisdom, purpose, no, not the AI department. And I think AI will grow here. We have more knowledge and probably also more insights. That will grow because it will get better. But the last part is the important part. 90% of all action in business is here. Do you trust this customer? Do you have an answer to a very complex problem? What facts can you ignore? Which ones are really important? What is the person really saying apart from saying it? This is what we do every day. We're here. So very important to remember as we go towards this idea of telos, the Greek word for wisdom. That is our job. A machine cannot have wisdom because it doesn't exist. It can, of course, simulate wisdom, right, which we're seeing a lot these days. The comparison of IQs, now basically the latest model from OpenAI, the O1 model, allegedly has an IQ of 120. But of course, you know what the problem is with IQs. We don't really know what that is as far as humans are concerned. Intelligence means being able to change things, to accomplish things. Intelligence is not consciousness. We got to separate those two things. We want our software to be intelligent, not like a human, but not stupid. Do we want it to be conscious? No. We don't want it to have agency. No. Reasoning? I don't know. Within reason. Because the bottom line is this. Machines don't think, they don't feel, they don't have hunches, they don't understand, really. They don't imagine, and they don't care. Why would I put the machine in charge of what I do? I use it so I can do these things. And we've talked about this all day long. It's about the EQ and the IQ. Let the machine have the processing, the logic, but leave the EQ for us. Ultimately, that is how we make decisions in business, and that's how things really work. In this pyramid, it's important to see that the lower part, the sort of data information layer, that's machine territory. That is frustrating to many of us because we pride ourselves on our knowledge. Now, machines have knowledge, machine knowledge, but still. And we're going to move up into the top part, the human-only territory. Understanding, tacit information, wisdom, purpose. That's what our kids need to learn. That's what we need to learn. That's what our HR department has to look for. We want a person that can be in that part of the pyramid, not somebody who's going to compete with a machine. Not that you can do any such thing. We are moving into a future where tacit knowledge is taken over. Quiet knowledge. This is the human part here. So, subjective, cognitive, experimental, non-codified, everything else the machine can eventually handle. Let's get ready for that. That's super important also for education, for human resources, for everything, for planning where we're going to put our resources. Real quick on artificial general intelligence. OpenAI says this is their goal, right? This was leaked by Bloomberg. It's scary because he says, basically chatbots first, then reasoners, then agents, then innovators, and lastly, AI organizations. Like what? AI is agents. What are you smoking? Because I think that here at this point, I would cut the line and say, okay, I can move up and down a little bit with the line, but really do I want an AI to be my agent? Yeah, I wanted to be an agent to get the job done in supply chain. Yeah, but otherwise, no. So we have to cut the line there somewhere. A tool, yes. An agent, a creator, no. An entity that has an IQ of 5,000 is to be the creator of our business environment, to make laws, to make decisions. We have an alignment problem here. Here's the alignment problem. All the money that goes into AI, all the time and money that goes into alignment. Can you imagine? We're going to spend trillions of dollars on building stuff, and then in the end we say, oh, shoot, just like climate change. We built all this stuff, we polluted everything, but now we don't know how to solve it. And we probably shouldn't because it's a state's responsibility. Just like what happened with climate. This is the alignment problem. It's the best thing I can find. It's inadvertent. The machine isn't evil. It just doesn't get the job done. If you ask an AI today to solve climate change, it would just kill all of us. With the most popular solution. It's a kind of a misalignment of that nature. I'll wrap up by saying climate change, we did not succeed to get things done, to collaborate. This is the chart that shows you roughly the degree of warming in a few years, where we're going to have 500 million climate refugees coming from those countries. And we thought it was 30 years away. No, it's not. It's 10 years away. It's happening now. Look at this, what's happening. We're dealing pretty well with global warming and net zero, but the rest of the world, no. We haven't collaborated enough. And this chart is even worse, showing us all the stuff since we invented the steam engine. We zero in here, right? Boom, our ppms and CO2. If we do the same with AI, we could have a line here that says invention of artificial intelligence. And then it goes up like this with all of the side effects. Not something we want. The UN created a document called the Pact of the Future, how we can change this. This is a complex topic. We're not going to solve that here today. We also have a side effect of democracy. Democracy has declined. Why? Many reasons, but one of them is social media. It's a clear connection. Look at this chart here, right? Living in autocracies? Do we really want this to happen, the next thing where we have AI shooting down democracy? By misinformation, by providing bad leads, by leading people astray, by making us lonely. We want AI to get the job done in our business, not to influence people's decision-making. Now I'm really going to wrap up. Okay? AI is a power tool. It's been said many times before, people with power tools beat the people without power tools. No power tool is going to take over the world. It's like a carpenter who has a nail gun is faster than a carpenter without the nail gun. But the nail gun is dangerous. We need rules, standards, agreements on how we use this gun. Let's be careful what we wish for. If I say I want this machine to run the prison system, identify people who are eligible for parole, I mean, that is a stupid, bizarre idea. I'm going to interview people to figure out what they're thinking so they'd be suitable for the job with an AI? No, we don't want that. In the end, it's about this. Pursue competence, not consciousness. Competence. Can the job get done? What does it cost? What does it produce? Tools, not friends. These machines are not our friends. They're not human. They don't have a purpose. They don't care. They're tools. Marshall McLuhan said, we make our tools, and then our tools make us. 1965. That's what we don't want here. And we should question if we really need general intelligence. Would be nice to have, like nuclear fusion, but we don't want to blow things up just because we want this. It's been discussed today already. We should always keep the humans in the loop. Even if it's more expensive, if it's less efficient, because keeping the human in the loop keeps the value. It keeps us from becoming commodities. I think that is true until we can figure out how to control the AI to do that in our alignment system. Yeah? And autonomous intelligence is definitely outside of this range. So switch the conversation from if we can do it, how we can do it, how much money does it cost? This is the question. What do I want it to do? Why? And what benefit does it create? Does it create a benefit for the bottom line and that's it? Usually not a good thing. Does it have other benefits? That would be, of course, the holy grail if we can find this. Ask yourself a simple question. Would this be good for my children? When you ask this question, you think about products differently. Would this product be good for my children? Finally, quoting from my book, embrace technology, but don't become it. I think that's the key to the future of AI. Thanks very much for listening.